Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to today's episode. I'm Giacomo, I'm your host, and this is the Health Advantage podcast. Now, today I want to talk about something a little bit less intangible compared to what we've been talking about recently, which has been like quite tangible and quite data driven. Now, what I want to talk to you today about is perfectionism and how um, this can influence our behaviors both in a positive or in a negative way when it comes to health, fitness, activity, exercise, nutrition, sticking to a diet, and get a point. So again, perfectionism is very first of all, it's very common, and second of all, is has got very different um, faces. It's got very different faces and perspectives. And I think it's easy to say that perfectionism is not good for us, and we should try to be a bit more conscious of it and be a bit less dominated by it almost and guided and driven by it. But I feel like that way we're living out a lot of nuance, which is actually coming out also thanks to research. In fact, I've recently read a couple of articles which are really interesting. Um, so yeah, I thought it was an interesting topic to cover. I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about, um, especially as I've seen it. I see a lot often, obviously, in my practice, but also I see a lot in myself. And it's something that I'm always aware of, and I'm always curious in trying to trying to understand, but also in trying to I say probably control in a way. So we obviously live in a society which is very achievement driven and hyper connected, and according to research, is apparently in young individuals, 3 out of 10 actually can display perfectionistic tendencies. I would have expected that number to be higher, to be honest. But I guess it depends on where you live. I guess I'm probably in one of those areas where perfectionism is more the norm. So in probably one of the areas that skew the numbers up way more, as an average is always an average and never represents a curve that well. So when it comes to perfectionism and the way it can affect us into our health behaviors, it can obviously represent itself in different ways. I guess the most common way is to feeling like we have to have the perfect solution to a problem, and that can be a workout, that can be an exercise program, that can be a diet, that can be a meal, that can be a plan, that can be a coach, that can be a gym. That can be anything really, anything related to the activity or the goal that we're trying to achieve. So what is usually left out of the common description and prescription, I should say, about perfectionism, perfectionism, is that it's not a one size fits all. In fact, is very multidimensional and is multifactorial, and it has, as I said before, like different areas that can be influences, but also driven by different situations. Um, so if we were going to look at the theory of perfectionism and the studies done on perfectionism, there's two main areas, there's two main facets. So we got perfectionistic striving, sorry, or also abbreviated as PS, and perfectionistic concerns, so PC. Okay, so think of perfectionistic strivings, or PS, as the drive that we have to achieve to um, and to set a benchmark for ourselves, essentially. Uh, it is essentially related to ambition and to aspiration. Um, whilst on the flip side, PC, or perfectionistic concerns, I'm more our inner critics. So the worries about making mistakes, the worries about not being able to do what we're trying to do, what we want to do, the dissatisfaction even when we achieve what we are set out to do, um, and the weight that we give to external criticism that might come along the way. So, as I said before, first of all, actually, let me recap this. So we got, as I said, like two main areas. We got PS and PC. So PS is perfectionistic strivings. So it's our ambition, it's our willingness to do more and aspiration. And then we got the perfectionistic concerns, which is the worries and the anxieties that come with the risk or the possibility of making mistakes and of being judged and criticized by it, and the weight that we give to the external criticism, and the dissatisfaction that might even come when we achieve what we set out to achieve. Now you might be asking about why am I talking to you about this stuff here? Why am I talking to you in a health podcast? Um, and the reason is that, as I said before, like I've encountered this um, abstract obstacle along my way so many times, both as I said, like personally in my own journeys, in my own strivings, and also obviously in the ones of my clients. Because perfectionism plays a very vital role um, into the habits that we decide to uptake and into the goals we decide to pursue. Um, so both for the athletes and the casual exercises, the person that sets out to, drop some body fat and increase their muscle mass, get a bit stronger, and maybe just attend the gym a bit more regularly, a bit more often. The perfectionistic traits that we talked about, that we mentioned, will have a very important impact on motivations, on our emotions, and finally, overall, of course, on our behaviors, and therefore on the habits that we will end up taking, and the ones that we will end up avoiding as a consequence. Um, and so here's the interesting things that has come out, as I said, from recent research and from the recent papers that I've managed to get my hands on and to manage to read. That while perfectionistic strivings, or as I said, PS, can have both good and bad impacts on our motivation and well-being, um, perfectionistic concerns, or PC, um, is mostly a maladaptive pattern and is always something that's going to lead to negative feelings, negative emotions, um, and therefore probably much more likely to an avoidance of those particular situations, habits, or behaviors. Because essentially they're going to drive the joy away from that from what we're trying to do, from what we're trying um to set towards. um and also, this is also quite important. I think perfectionism has got very important implications with our reasons for exercises, or again for trying to uptake any sort of like health related habit and behavior. As I said before, dieting, improving our nutrition, moving more, exercising, all this can and will be influenced by these scenarios, by these situations. So there are some studies that suggest that um, those who have a higher tendency towards perfectionism um, will uptake exercise, or will try to uptake exercise more obviously for appearance or for attractiveness. Um, and that will also be the same case for nutrition. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that this higher tendency towards perfectionism tends to push our motivation to being external rather than internal. Now we have two different types of motivation. We have extrinsic or external motivation or motivators, I should say, and then we have intrinsic or internal motivators. And now this is quite basic, and I guess you can probably understand it just by the names. Those who have extrinsic motivators and those who are trying to achieve something, to please something external, right? For example, being, money, as I said, status, or in this case, appearance, will have much more, will have much less drive um, to to do those behaviors, and will get much less joy, obviously, from those behaviors, even when they do get the motivators that they set out to achieve. Whilst for the internal motivators, so I said for the intrinsic motivation in the case, for example, contrary to the perfectionistic concerns of wanting to exercise and be on a diet for purely appearance status, when we set out to do something like this, for example, because we're trying to improve our health, we want to feel better about ourselves, we want to improve our confidence, we have an internal locus of control of the not only of the motivators but also of the situation. This is going to create much more of a healthy environment where the person will not only be more prone to uptake that behavior, but also to stick to it for the long term. So again, intrinsic motivation essentially is related to better and longer commitment to certain things, just because purely we just get more joy from something, and therefore we are more likely to do it unless something drives us away from that. So therefore, obviously, having perfectionistic tendencies, and in particularly having perfectionistic concerns, might be, which as I said before, contrary to the strivings, might be more detrimental to it. As I said, this is to say that essentially not all of the perfectionism needs to be discarded, and perfectionism is a broad area. As I said, we can individuate two main facets of it, or two main phases, I should say: the strivings and the concerns. The strivings are equal to the ambition, to the aspiration, which are not entirely per se bad, because you can have the ambition and the aspiration, obviously, to improve your health because you want to get better, because you want to feel better, because you're tired of feeling, I don't know, sluggish and overweight and unhealthy and whatnot. And that can be good. So there is this good nuance into perfectionism. The problem comes with the concerns and the fact that the perfectionistic concerns, or those who have more of those traits, will have more likely to have also extrinsic motivators, or an extrinsic motivation, or external motivators as a primarily source of motivation, therefore are more likely to not actually do the things that they want to do because they want to do it, but because there is something at the end as a reward. So obviously, there is again some more to say on this too, and that's why I'm talking on a topic. As I said, there is quite a lot of nuance to all this area. There needs to be some cautionary tales on what I'm saying here, and this is because striving for perfection, as I said, even though it might seem like necessary or useful, I would say, in certain areas, in certain phases, in certain scenarios, it can also be a psychological vulnerability. It can also be a weakness, I should say. And this creates what is called the paradox of perfectionism. And the paradox is that even if perfectionism can drive us towards better performance, towards better health, towards better habits, it can also lead us down the road of putting us at risk of mental health, such as, for example, burnout is clear. The road from perfectionism to burnout is quite easy. It's not easy, sorry, it's quite straightforward as I said before. If you're doing something not for the joy of doing it, but because you're continually forcing you to do it because of the external rewards that you get, that is simply going to lead to burnout over the long term. Um, and therefore, there is obviously this sad but true reality that perfectionism can obviously be a motivator, but it can also be, and it is also an obstacle and a barrier for us. So it can also create excessive social anxiety as we're trying to extremely compare ourselves to others and to what others are doing. And this is going to lead me to another point that I'm going to get to soon. So it is obviously important that, and there are a lot of points that are worth mentioning here, but also it's important to say that there are a few other situations and scenarios that we can talk about. And I feel like in recent times, the advent of perfectionism has probably gotten, I would say, worse. And this is first and foremost, I say, would probably, you could probably guess, but it's probably due to the advent of social media and the fact that we are constantly and consistently, obviously, being exposed to not just to everyone else, not just to a lot of other people, not just to all of our friends and acquaintances and relatives and whatnot, but also because we are exposed to something that we've never been exposed to before in our history as a humans, and is that we are constantly exposed to the 0.001 percentage of people that are the top performance in every field, when it comes from business to academia to research to whatever. We can and we are exposed to the top, to the very top of these people, to the ones that have more uptake on the social networks, and those are therefore much more in our eyes, and therefore obviously, and these people um, are not the healthiest when it comes to what set them out to what they set out to achieve essentially, and being constantly exposed to this, obviously we are naturally driven to compare ourselves and to compare ourselves to others. And when we see that the comparison is so vast, is so big, it's huge, obviously, because if you're always comparing yourself to the 0.0000001% of the top performance in every field of the world, the things are gonna be, and can get very unhealthy for yourself very quickly. And again, that's why we can spiral more towards the concerns, the perfectionistic concerns, such as the anxiety and the worry and the fear and the pressure, obviously, of achieving and of performing and of doing. And therefore, again, falling into the trap of chasing these concerns as our external motivators, and therefore driving ourselves more into a burnout state rather than to a healthier state, which is what we actually want. We want to try and do things to make us feel better, but we don't realize that more often than not, we're doing things not to feel better, but to not feel worse, essentially, which is due to the concerns, to the anxieties, to the worries, and to the fact that we feel constantly maybe inferior, maybe missing out, and we are constantly played on our evolutionary traits and our evolutionary brains from the algorithms and from social media and from technology, that is exposing us to stuff that is literally like toxic and poisoning us, because it's pushing us away towards what we want, and is pushing more towards what they think we should want. So again, social media effect, I think very high contributor to the pressure of perfectionism and to why more and more people, especially young people, will constantly feel the need to prove themselves. And then again, this goes back into our fitness journey. We are exposed to so many much more what we called so-called into brackets ideal bodies and lifestyles, and therefore we compare ourselves to them. We feel like, well, we can't really compare, can we? And therefore we feel like either we feel like we're failing or we need to push ourselves to extremely go down the line of I need to do more. And therefore the perfectionistic concerns kick in and amplify the need for more perfection in our own lives. And again, one simple example that I can give you from my personal story and from my personal state is that obviously um, I'm the same like everyone else. Obviously, I compare myself to others on a regular basis, and I don't do it on purpose. I just do it because it happens. And I've been trying to obviously not be so controlled by it. I've been trying to be more mindful to it and try and respond rather than react. And that's not always easy. That's not always that's not even always possible, to be honest with you. Because our brain is very is very much on its own, and we can't sometimes you can't control the brain with the brain, sometimes you can't control the mind with the mind. Anyways, one of my personal experiences and stories is, for example, the one of wanting to start this podcast. I pushed it and delayed it for so long, like with a lot of things that I do. Not because I didn't feel ready for it. I mean, probably yes, I did not feel ready for it, but it's more because I felt the need that I could only start doing this when I had everything figured out, when everything was perfect, when everything was the right time, the right setup, the right moment, and the right phase of my life, and the right topics, the right scripting habits, the right everything. So I felt like, oh, I can't start this because I still don't have this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And then one day I just realized, you know what, I really want to do this, and fuck what my brain is telling me, because again, it's never gonna be that list is never gonna it's never gonna stop. It's never gonna run away. That list is never gonna be fulfilled. There is always gonna be something more on the list. There is always gonna be something else. There is always going to be something, because it's essentially just the brain tricking us. So I decided, okay, fuck it, I accept the imperfection of it. I accept that at the beginning it will be very imperfect, but that's also the beauty of it, because it probably, for at least the first 100 or 200 episodes, if I ever get there, nobody's going to listen to it. So fuck it, might as well just start and see how it goes from there. And also, what I did not realize back then, because again, we don't realize these things because we are stuck into this perfectionistic mode, is the fact that, oh, but I don't have everything figured out, therefore I have to have everything figured out before I start something. In reality, you start something, and then funny enough, the ideas come to your mind, the solutions come to your mind, the um your brain like proactively works with you to find out what you need to find out, and the solutions come to you, and the ideas come to you, and this is something that I started to realize after I started, obviously, not before. So difference now is trying to understand, and I get that it's quite difficult to because the question that comes natural to me, and as I was writing this, I was thinking about this. Okay, how do we find a balance? Where is the balance? How can we be realistic and achievable whilst also being ambitious and trying to improve our health, our diet, and our fitness and whatnot? Um, and that again, it goes back to um, every person is different and every person is unique. So our own circumstances are unique to ourselves. So we can only face it by understanding that what we need and what we want can be sometimes two different things. And understand what is good for us and what is good for us, not just for now, because the brain is always going to point us towards what is good for now, but what is going to be good for the long term, right? So, for example, it's good for me to not exercise today. It's good for me to not record this podcast today, okay? Because I prefer, binge watching Netflix and eating everything at once. But it won't be good for me for next year because I'm going to be stuck in the same time, at the same place. Sorry, I'm going to be in the worst shape, and I'm also wasted 1 year without recording not even a single episode of a podcast. Therefore, so why do I think then? Is it worth it, the rewards of the moment, or is it worth, stacking a little bit for the moment, even because I don't want to exercise and I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, but I know that next year this stuff is going to be good. Okay. And this is the same thing for our perfectionistic approach. Okay. Do I want to record this podcast because of my ambition and my almost my idea and my dream of spreading this word and helping people and making somebody listen to this that actually can get value from it and saying something that is actually of value to people? Or do I want to record this podcast and this future podcast that I will set out to record just because of the money, of the success, of the achievement, of whatever? Right? This is exactly the same principle we can apply to everything else. Do I want to go to the gym today because I want to look shredded in 2 weeks' time, in 2 months' time? Or do I want to go to the gym today and eat healthy because I want to be I want to be as healthy as I am now in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years' time? And that also maybe is going to make me look jacked, because obviously I'm not taking the rewards away from it. I'm not saying that you have to sacrifice the rewards. The rewards will be a part of it, of course, but the rewards should not be your reward. The rewards should not be the goal. The goal should be the goal, and the rewards will come with the goal or with the achievement of the goal. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. So I think that was pretty much all I wanted to say for today. I hope it makes sense, and I hope you can find some values of it. There probably is a lot more that can be talked about. I think this is a topic that we can talk about for a lot more, and probably worth revisiting some other points. Let me know what you think about it. If you have any questions or anything that you want me to cover more in depth, I'm happy to come back onto the topic and discuss a bit more. If you have some book recommendations, also please feel free to share. I'm always willing to read and to learn and to understand more. And I will also, if I do go back on the topic, I will talk a bit more about the books that I read on the topic and what lessons I took away from those. But for anything else, guys, thank you very much again for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Here's Giacomo, your host from the Advantage podcast. I'll speak to you to the next episode.